What are we talking about? Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
This is UnCleated with Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, and Jason Bishop.
In my opinion, that sucked.
We failed to make our coaching points and our points more compelling than their fat little girlfriends.
Oh my God, did he really just say that?
UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop, and we have a ton of stuff to get into. A very busy Major League Baseball week. A lot of college football news. As you already know, we've got the BCS game in place, and we've got some NFL stuff to get to. So without any further ado, we're just going to jump right into the thing with headlines.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. Cannonball!
Headlines.
Jameis Winston of the Florida State Seminoles was voted the ACC Offensive Player of the Year. As a redshirt freshman, that's pretty impressive. You had some pretty good players in that conference, you know, with Taj Boyd and even Stephen Morris down at the U. And, you know, he just pretty much dominated, and I think they got the right guy. He averaged, he had 3,820 yards, which was a record for a freshman, passing on the year, and he threw 38 TDs. So, I mean, went to the right guy.
Yankees staying busy in the offseason with another pickup with Jacoby Ellsbury, a 30-year-old center fielder from the Boston Red Sox. Last year, very productive, 9 home runs, keeping it up with the 52 stolen bases. I think it's a great pickup for the Yankees. I don't know about the money in this situation at 7 years, $1.53. It's a big number for a 30-year-old little center fielder coming in. But I think the Yankees are starting to make some of the right moves. Ellsbury's another great postseason player they're picking up, and it's just looking like they're really trying to get in the playoffs. They're going to have to make a few more moves, but going in the right directions with the Yankees.
Here's a no-brainer for you. David Cutcliffe wins ACC Coach of the Year. Was there really even another candidate? Nope. The first time in school history, they win 10 games. The first time in school history, they're in the ACC championship game. And for the first time in school history, they went through all of their rivals to get there. Congratulations, David Cutcliffe. Very well deserved, and I hope he continues to build.
More drama coming out of the nation's capital. Washington Redskins head coach Mike Shanahan says he is disgruntled over Dan Snyder's, which is the owner, for those that don't know, relationship with Robert Griffin III. Well, I just think when you got an owner who's kind of coddling one guy, I know he's your franchise quarterback, or this day and time he's your franchise quarterback, but when you're coddling a guy, when you're sending your own personal driver to pick up his girlfriend and, well, now wife, and doing stuff like that, and he's getting preferential treatment over the other guys, that's not a great way to build unity in Washington. And until, I think, in my opinion, until Dan Snyder gets out the way, you know, you're not going to have a Super Bowl championship in Washington.
Another news coming out of New York, actually pretty exciting for the Mets, I suppose, since they don't really have that great of a team. They're picking up a heavy hitter in Curtis Granderson. Granted, his numbers weren't that big last year due to injuries, but the prior 2 years, he's putting up over 40 home runs. If Granderson can come back to any type of form he was in recent history, the Mets are going to have a little more excitement. They're going to have a lot more numbers, score a lot more runs. They're going to need a little bit of pitching and defense to stop these guys. But the Mets making a big move. The Yankees dumping some numbers here, dumping some money, and making room for other guys. So let's see what happens in New York this year.
The USC Trojans have stolen the Washington Huskies head coach Steve Sarkisian, and yet put another guy at the top of the program that's from the Pete Carroll era and is a carbon copy of Lane Kiffin. This will be another 3-year experiment that goes awry for USC. They will continue to be in the middle of the conference in the Pac-12, won't contend for a Pac-12 championship or national titles which is what they're looking to do. Sarkisian will be there 3 years, fired, and then USC will be wondering why they didn't hire Ed Ogeron.
Well, good news for the Auburn Tigers. They have extended Gus Malzahn's contract. He agreed to a new 6-year deal. It's going to be worth about $3.85 million in the first year, and he's going to get a $250,000 raise every year from that point forward. I, however, don't think it's going to turn out to be quite like the USC situation out west. I look for them to be a serious contender in the West like they already are.
Looks like some great news for Oregon. Marcus Mariota decided he will return to try to continue that Heisman bid, since it doesn't look like he's quite going to make it this year, and see if they can go back and actually continue to have an undefeated season, which they really would have loved, and make that chance for the BCS National Championship. He put up great numbers this year. I don't think he had an interception until one of his last 2 games of the season. He's a great talent, and Oregon has to be ecstatic to see this kid return.
Chris Peterson is leaving Boise State to take over the Washington Husky job that Steve Sarkisian left. I don't know what the water or is in the water out west, but there's something that is making people not make clear decisions. Chris Peterson leaving Boise State, a program that he has guided to prominence in the country, even though they're a non-AQ. He's got a ridiculous record of something like 97-12 out there. And he's taking over a middle-of-the-pack Pac-12 program in Washington State, which you can almost barely recruit anybody to get to come to. This will be another disaster, although I think Chris Peterson will last 5 years at Washington before they fire him.
New Era is going to be taking over next season in Houston for the Houston Texans. They fired Gary Kubiak after going 61-64. And he's 2-11 on the season. Needs to be some serious changes. Now they've been bitten by the injury bug too, so I don't think it's entirely his fault. Good coach. He's going to land somewhere. It's just going to be interesting to see who they pick up.
And congratulations to the Atlanta Falcons and the Detroit Lions. The NFL will be paying for a vacation next year to London. Just so happens they'll be playing football when they go, or they might try to play football if it's any. If they do anything like they're doing this year, it probably won't be a whole lot of football, and the Lions will absolutely crush them. But it'll be interesting to wake up, have a little coffee, and watch a football game at 9 o'clock in the morning. Good luck to you guys. Have safe travels, and I'll be looking for you right after my news in the morning.
Those are your headlines for this past week. So tell me about your week, Garrett.
I didn't do anything. I felt like a complete bum. I think I went to Walmart. Of course, this time of year, I think that qualifies as something.
You can't pay me enough money to go into Walmart.
Because that's an event right there.
You would have to pay me.
I don't think there's a total.
No, I don't like Walmart. Unfortunately, going to have to be doing a little Christmas shopping for the niece and nephew here soon. I dread getting into the stores. I dread shopping for a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old, but I gotta do it. So if any suggestions from you guys, tell me what to get. I'm not sure.
Don't look at me. Garrett's the one to ask about kids. I've got no idea.
Buy him a truck.
Buy him a truck. I can't even afford to buy myself a truck right now, but maybe Tonka's got a special on that I could check out.
I'm sure they do.
I'm sure.
I spent my week doing the least amount of work that I could do, still laid up sick. I can't get healthy. Eventually, I'm starting to feel better, finally, after a month of, Garrett, I've been battling this flu crap for 2 months, and it's been bad the last month, but the last few days, I think I'm finally starting to get there.
Well, I'm glad you decided to share your sickness with us.
You're welcome. It's tough to beat.
Close quarters that we happen to be in.
It's tough to beat.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I ain't feeling so good. I think I got to go, man. I ain't feeling so good.
It's going to be a hard break here. We're going to have to go take some NyQuil or something.
I was at Walmart a while back, and I saw this lady that was at the self-checkout, and whatever she has, she couldn't get to click, and the red light comes on, and then the customer service person has to come. So the customer service person comes, punches in the code, machine opens up, the very next item she scans, red light, and then has to wait for the customer service person. The next thing she scans, red light, literally like 4 things in a row, red light. And at that point, I'm just like, all right, look, get out of the self-checkout line. Whatever it is that you have. I think it was like bananas, like produce.
Right.
Go get in a regular line. You're holding, and especially if you're going to walk into Walmart now, which I won't do. I've actually I've got the benefit of right now not doing my own grocery shopping. I have, fortunately, with SSE, I've got somebody that kind of handles all that stuff for me. So I'm kind of excited.
You what now?
Yeah.
So what's his name? I'm sure he's a nice guy, Jason.
He lost some stripes over that one. I have to say. If I have to load my butt up and go to the daggone grocery store, I think every man should have to do that.
Shop for myself.
Nope.
Because if somebody buys me the wrong bacon and brings it home.
I make a list. I make a list of what to get and name brands and stuff. I just don't go.
If I don't get my thick cut hickory, we're going to have a fight. That's all I'm saying.
I heard that.
Yeah. There's not much discussing that. You come home with the wrong bacon, you're going back to the store. That's just all I'm saying.
Quickly, swiftly.
Yes. Oh, goodness.
Not this guy. All right, well, we're going to get out, and when we get back, we're going to break down the BCS Championship game, uncleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network.
D1 football coverage. I mean real football coverage. Your answer then is Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com. From high school football to the pros, no one knows more and has better perspective on the teams you care about. Bulldogs, Falcons, Braves, and everything Southern Sports. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com has names you know and trust. Guys from here born and raised. Names like J.C. Outlaw, Kevin Price, Jason Bishop, and many more you know and trust. Ask your mom now. They'll tell you. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com is your unmatched source for Southern sports, period. The Southern Sports Edition at the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
104.1 The Wave presents the Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, the authority on Southern sports.
This Southern Sports Edition Minute is brought to you by Island Automotive. The high school basketball season now takes center court with high school football over, and the Brunswick Pirates took home a 62-39 win over Glenn in the last game between the two ever played in the old BHS gym. This has been your Southern Sports Edition Minute, a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network, brought to you by Island Automotive. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at SSE Sports, and be sure to check out UnCleated with myself, Garrett Gibbs, and Tyler Mitchell at the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
Pick up your copy of SSE all over the Golden Isles. The Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, exclusively on 104.1 The Wave.
UnCleated, back on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Jason Bishop, and Tyler Mitchell taking you through it. All right, so we've got the BCS Championship game in place. We know who's going to be there, and it's going to be Florida State, and it's going to be Auburn. So we're going to go ahead and give you our early predictions and break this game down for you. I think, Garrett, this is going to be one of those prototypical games where it's Auburn's scheme, which has gotten them this far, versus Florida State's talent, which has gotten them this far.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a good matchup. I don't think it's as good a matchup as we could have asked for. With I still think Alabama's the best team in the SEC, but Auburn's seems like a team of destiny this season. Everything's kind of gone their way. I mean, how about Ohio State losing? I mean, nobody had that game. Well, I say nobody. I mean, all the experts were talking about that Ohio State was going to eke that win out, and if they had,
the thing is, all the experts are talking about that, except for these three guys in this room
exactly.
who all said Ohio State will not win that game.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought it would be by 3. It ended up being by 10 because when you play a powder puff schedule like that, and then they that's the only credible team they played all season, they lose. Well, it seems like all the chips are stacking in Auburn's favor. Well, I don't think that's going to happen on January the 7th when they play FSU for the title, because I like FSU's defense and depth to take over and win that game.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. That the FSU defense is just, I mean, I say it week in and week out, it's fun to watch. Seeing so much speed and talent on that side of the ball, to me it's exciting. It's like watching a good pitching duel in baseball. It's like when you see some guys come out there and the guys on defense are just as fast as your wide receivers coming off the line. and your safeties are coming up making tackles on screen passes. I mean, these guys come all the way across the field. They come to play day in and day out, and what Auburn brings to the table with their running game, it's going to match up. I think it's just going to be another great game, fun to watch, and who's going to have more heart and last for 4 quarters instead of 3.5? What's it going to be?
UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. Let me pose the question. All right, so Auburn's going to see Florida State. Now, I kind of have the thought that maybe Florida State's defense is going to be the best defense that Auburn has faced to this point, even with their SEC schedule. Are you guys in agreement with that?
I think they're the fastest. I don't know if talent, if you break it down per position, I don't know that they have the most talent, but I think they have the most speed. And I know Florida State they don't play an SEC type schedule. They've averaged beating their opponents 42.7 points a game. That's their average margin of all the games.
That's all right.
Well, if you're going to play a weaker schedule, it better look like that.
You have to.
If you're going to make an argument, I think we talked about this last week, if you're going to make an argument to play for the whole enchilada, then you better, if you got a powder puff schedule, you better be blowing them out by 50. I mean, and that's what FSU did.
And Garrett just busted out the only Spanish word that is in his vocabulary, enchilada. Moving on.
I ain't saying it again.
I'm going to say it when I go to lunch after this, but that's for a different argument there. FSU, I'm glad I'm not sitting here talking about Ohio State being undefeated and Auburn, wanting to talk about Auburn. So I get to talk about Auburn. It's been, like Garrett was saying, it's like the team of destiny this year. Like, if you asked me 3 weeks ago, Auburn, we're not even talking about Auburn right now because nobody would care. But within 30 seconds, they changed their whole season around, and now they're, the hot topic. And, I guess we can say they deserve it. They had to fight for those games to make some incredible, amazing, ESPN type
I hear you
play of the year.
I hear you tooting Auburn's horn. The question that I asked was, is Florida State's defense better than any other defense that they've played?
I think that it's going to be a close call. Alabama does have a great defense.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
It's a different setup.
Yeah.
It's a different type of defense to me. FSU's going to chase you across the field. They're going to be in your backfield all day long.
And I think that, Tyler, you're hitting on something there. I think the clear defense between Bama, if you want to single that out, Bama and FSU, Bama controls the game and the line of scrimmage with their linebackers. FSU does it with their 4-down linemen because FSU plays a 4-3 most of the time. Alabama plays a 3-4.
Right.
Well, they have the bigger, linebackers are so vital in the 3-4. But it's a different style. They're both very effective, but Florida State tends to do it with their ends, with their defensive ends. They have unreal speed.
It's crazy.
Back in the 90s when they were so good, their ends were as fast as the other opposing receivers. I mean, they were just that fast. Well, now they're getting back to what they used to look like, and that's scary.
I mean, when you're putting your hands on the quarterback, a second and a half after he snaps the ball or making him scramble out of the pocket within, under 2 seconds, that changes the game. The quarterback's not going to be comfortable at all, especially if they're getting in the backfield like that against Auburn. It's really going to affect their running game and their scheme, how they typically been beating people the past few weeks. And then when they do decide to air the ball out, these boys in the secondary can make plays on FSU. They are there every time the ball's in the air. Like I said, it's just great. I can't wait.
A clear-cut advantage that I see is Florida State's receiving core versus Auburn's secondary. Florida State has the best receiving core in the country, and it's not even arguable. Missouri might be close, but they're a distant second.
Oh, yeah.
So, Missouri's got the second best receiving core, and look at what Missouri did in the air to Auburn.
Right.
And Florida State's receivers are far better as a whole, as a group, than what Missouri had. And I think that's going to be a huge advantage that Florida State's going to look to exploit as far as throwing the football down the field.
And we haven't even brought up the potential Heisman Trophy winner, Jameis Winston. Is he going to be the straw that broke the camel's back? Is he that extra little piece that gives FSU the advantage? I mean, obviously, he does give them an advantage. I think that's fair.
Do we... I'm not sure. I look at the rosters and I look at the matchups and I'm trying to find a place where Auburn might have an advantage. Really, the only thing that I can see is maybe the special teams.
Luck. They have a huge advantage with luck. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, and, you're talking about the receiving core when you got, guys like Kelvin Benjamin,
wow,
Kenny Shaw, and and not on top of that, you got Jameis Winston, who can not only throw the ball, he can run the ball. Like I said earlier in the show, he set the records for a freshman quarterback. I think sky's the limit with that guy. I just don't know how. I don't know how Auburn hadn't shown me all season that their defense is good enough to slow them down. I think FSU's gonna score. I'm gonna go out there and say they score 40, pretty easy on Auburn. It's just a matter of what Auburn, their dynamic offense, what they can do against that vaunted defense of FSU. I think that defense is more talented than the offense.
Are you picking Florida State?
I'm picking Florida State.
And you're giving me a score of 42...
I'm going to say 41-24.
Really? That big of a difference? 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns.
I say it's going to be a big difference, too. I'm thinking you're looking somewhere in the 45 range to 45-28, somewhere around there.
Okay. Florida State.
Yes, for the state.
All right.
Florida State.
We're all in agreement around the table here.
Well, that's it. I'm leaving. All right, you don't need me.
I told you that a long time ago.
Well, I tell you, I'm not a deep down Florida State hater or an ACC hater, but it's an end of an era. This is going to be the end of the SEC's dominance, I think, in the national championship game. But I think it does say something for the SEC still being in the game.
Here's the irony. Remember all those years where all those offensive teams, Oregon and Ohio State and all those teams, and every year they played an SEC team, what we said was
Hawaii.
They've never seen anything like an SEC defense. That they might be this huge offensive juggernaut, but once they get on the field with an SEC defense, they're done. We flipped the script here.
Yeah.
The SEC team is a team with the vaunted offense, and the other team, the non-SEC team, is a team that has the better defense that we're saying they may not have played that fast of a defense. Well, just a little bit of irony.
It's been a long while since somebody has said that.
I agree.
Well, the SEC is kind of giving everybody a blueprint of what you're supposed to be a national championship team. I mean, we see it year in and year out.
Well, I remember the days of the dominating. Y'all remember all through the 90s that the national championship went through the state of Florida, whether it was Miami, whether it was Florida State, whether it was the University of Florida, and the way Miami and Florida State dominated was they had a defense that was just, it was like a daggum beehive out there. They just swarmed everywhere, and they were so quick that they could do it. And that's what this year's Florida State team looks like.
Yeah, sorry, Auburn fans. I do. I think that you're going to be the team that ends the SEC's run. If you had gotten anybody else other than Florida State, maybe. Well, we got to get out. This is UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. When we get back, we're going to break down the Robinson Cano contract.
104.1 The Wave presents the Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, the authority on Southern sports.
This Southern Sports Edition Minute is brought to you by Island Automotive. The high school basketball season now takes center court with high school football over, and the Brunswick Pirates took home a 62-39 win over Glenn in the last game between the two ever played in the old BHS gym. This has been your Southern Sports Edition Minute, a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network, brought to you by Island Automotive. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at SSE Sports, and be sure to check out UnCleated with myself, Garrett Gibbs, and Tyler Mitchell at theSouthernSportsEdition.com.
Pick up your copy of SSE all over the Golden Isles. The Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, exclusively on 104.1 The Wave.
D1 football coverage. I mean real football coverage. Your answer then is Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com. From high school football to the pros, no one knows more and has better perspective on the teams you care about. Bulldogs, Falcons, Braves, and everything Southern Sports. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com has names you know and trust. Guys from here born and raised. Names like J.C. Outlaw, Kevin Price, Jason Bishop, and many more you know and trust. Ask your mom tuned in. They'll tell you the Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com is your unmatched source for Southern sports, period. The Southern Sports Edition at the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. So we've got a Robinson Cano finalized deal, and it's not with the Yankees.
And it's not $300 million.
Right.
One thing I can say, the Yankees finally made a smart move.
Got that right. So Cano's is heading to the Great Northwest. Washington State is going to play in Seattle. The deal is ridiculous. 10 years, $240 million is what he inked in Seattle.
Yeah, you might as well just say it, $250 million. That makes it sound a lot higher. That is ridiculous. That is when you're dropping the B word in a contract and the good B word, the billion, that is just a high number.
It's been about 13 years now when A-Rod signed that 10-year, $252 million deal with Texas.
And then signed a bigger one after that.
He was 25, not 31.
That's a good point.
I can kind of see it's still ridiculous, but you just don't. I just don't think that's a good investment by the Mariners because the guy's 31 years old. He's not even going to be playing in 10 years. I'll go ahead and make that call right now. 10 years, he's not even going to be playing. I think bad investment.
I disagree. I think it's a great investment because what that does with the Mariners, it automatically makes them a contender. Look at that lineup with Robinson Cano in the middle with...
The middle of what?
Well, hold on now.
Wait. Who else? What's that guy? Oh, I can't name him.
You know what? I think Felix can back him up.
Felix
Hernandez, because I don't know nobody else on that whole team.
And in case you didn't catch on that sarcasm, it's a terrible signing. They've got nobody else than Robinson Cano. They're paying this huge contract, and it's going to disallow them to go get any help to build around him.
Well, that's the thing. That when you're putting up numbers, career 309 batter with the Yankees, he has protection in the lineup. He's not going to get pitched around every single at bat like will happen in Seattle. In Seattle, if you have one stellar hitter in your lineup, guess what? I can eliminate him from the baseball game every single game we play, you guys.
That's a good point.
So, I'm happy as heck if I'm everybody that gets to play the Mariners. Not like they should worry about anything except for one pitcher on their team. But, I just can't see it. Without protection, if you want Cano to bat over 300 like he's capable of doing, you're going to have somebody around the guy to make him want to pitch to him.
And listen to this. The plot thickens. The reason that Cano says that he left the Yankees and signed that deal with the Mariners is because he felt disrespected that the Yankees went out and overpaid Jacoby Ellsbury, who played for their rival, the Boston Red Sox, but wouldn't overpay Cano to re-sign because he had been a Yankee his entire life.
Well,
4 words: cry me a river.
Yeah, I agree. I think you got to put your little big boy pants on. All these guys were overpaid in my opinion.
So stop watching baseball then. I'm not going to watch anymore.
Exactly.
I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Exactly.
Get out of here. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. How disrespected is he going to feel when they're 35 games below 500 next year?
Well, here's the thing. It's like, and we were talking about this earlier off the air, but, I single out a guy named Chipper Jones who wanted championships. Okay, so he took a little less money to keep the team together.
Multiple times.
What the hell are you doing, Robinson? Do you want world championship? You got one. Okay, as a Yankee, as in Yankee lore, one is like having none because a lot of these guys have gotten 4, 5, and 6 championships. So where you at, homeboy?
Well, he's in the. If you heard what Jason said, he says I felt disrespected. Well, guess what, buddy? Baseball is not an I me first type of game here. It's a team sport.
This is not the NBA.
No, I feel disrespected. I want more money. I'm not ever going to win another championship. He can say all of these things, but he loses respect from me. You whiny little kid. Take your money. Stay on the a team where you have a chance to win. Shut your mouth and play baseball.
You left the baseball mecca of the world, playing for the New York Yankees, to go to an irrelevant part of the country in Seattle.
No offense, Seattle.
you call it what you will, but I mean, it's an irrelevant team in an irrelevant city as far as baseball goes.
Right.
When's fair question? When is the last time the Seattle Mariners were relevant? Period.
I think I'll let Garrett take this one.
I'd have to say, the first thing that comes to my mind is they had the greatest baseball player, in my opinion, one of the greatest ever. And when they had Junior, when they had A-Rod, they had Edgar Martinez. They had, I think, Brett Boone actually played for that team. You had some good players, and actually they had a nice little cross country rivalry going with the Yankees.
The thing is, it's been a decade since the Mariners have been relevant.
It's been over a decade.
And the Yankees are relevant every year.
Yes,
they may
are.
not get into the playoffs, but they're in the running for it every single year.
Agreed.
The Mariners go
Agreed.
10 years, they'll win for 3. They'll go 10 years and be terrible and lose 100 games, and then they'll win for 3. Where the Yankees are in it every single. As much as I hate to say that, it's the truth.
Well, they are.
You made yourself irrelevant for $240 million.
I mean, I think you can go back to and look at the Seattle farm system and look at all the players that have come out of that system and gone on elsewhere to be superstars. And I think I don't know where the problem lacks is I just don't know why they can't keep a team together up there, because they sure do have the talent.
Uncleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. So we started doing this thing a couple weeks ago, which I think it's pretty damn funny. Tyler holding it down. He'll give a segment a little later, and what we're about to do now is Garrett's Southern Soapbox. So I'm just going to hand the keys to the car to Garrett and say drive.
Put your seatbelt on, guys.
Garrett's Southern Soapbox.
I'm a serious Ohio State hater, if that's what you want to call me, and they finally lose over the weekend. They finally play a credible opponent, and they get their butts kicked. They get what they deserve. Urban Meyer, welcome to the loser bracket, buddy. And I'm getting tired of hearing people like Braxton Miller, talking trash about how they can play with anybody in the country. What happened? Michigan State, can they beat Auburn? Nah. Can they beat Florida State? Heck no. Can they beat Alabama? No. They can't even beat Georgia. Okay, and Georgia's a middle of the pack team this year in the SEC. So until you beat somebody credible, don't sit there and tell me that you can play with anybody in the country. I think they got exactly what they deserve. Now they're still gonna get a decent bowl bid, which is unfair in my mind. But whatever. They'll get beat there too if they play anybody credible. That's all I gotta say. I'm out.
Garrett's Southern Soapbox. I sure hope you put on your big boy pants for that.
I kept it PG-13.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
It was close. It was borderline R, brother. I have to say, we don't have to do some serious
drop some
editing
bombs?
on that one. I was wanting to drop some bombs bad.
Speaking of dropping bombs, I kind of had a bomb slide into my brain when I saw Tyler this afternoon when he got out of the parking lot, and he's in flip-flops and shorts. Brother, it's cold outside.
Yeah, tell that to my feet. I get up this morning to walk outside, and I'm drinking a cup of coffee, and I'm like, man, I really wish I would have a pair of pants on right now. So I try to compensate. I put a jacket on. My legs are still cold, and I can't feel my toes. So if you see me wearing socks and flip-flops, I don't want to hear it.
Man, you need to get that pretty little girlfriend of yours to start washing some clothes.
Yeah, washing, buying clothes, cooking. Yeah, I need to get her to do a lot of things, and we're going to be working on that. It's a building process, Jason.
You know what, Braxton Miller? If your only credible win this year is against Wisconsin, don't sit here and tell me that you belong out there on the field with Florida State. Oh, my bad, it's over.
3 minutes later, he's still stewing. I was going to say, well, if you want pointers on how to get your wife to do what you would like to do, I talked to Garrett, then I thought, no, that doesn't happen.
She does more for me than she should. It's kind of it was my bad judgment and not bringing extra clothes.
I'm just kidding. I've met her. She's a very sweet girl, and Garrett's wife is also a very sweet girl. Make no mistake about it. Garrett's wife runs the show.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And if she's listening to the show, you better say hey, or are you sleeping on the couch?
I'll tell you what, it really is off the record, but hey, she'd be listening later. I can't say it. I do have to sleep.
Our studio's probably bugged right now. She's probably listening anyways, to tell you the truth.
Again, Garrett's wife is a beautiful, sweet lady. And but I know how it is.
Yeah.
You and I have been, you and I were friends before she came along, and brother, that things changed real quick.
Whipped him into shape, huh?
Real quick.
Is that why last time when I was leaving, I see him out there washing the truck, her car? I think he even had the kids out there spraying them down. I'm not sure.
No, I can't even do that, man. That's like abuse.
It is. It was cold outside.
Uncleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. When we get back, we're going to break down the conference championship games, and we're also going to weigh in on Jameis Winston getting cleared of all charges. One last thing also, be sure to check us out, Twitter at SSE Sports and at Uncleated, and shoot us an email, uncleated@gmail.com.
D1 football coverage. I mean real football coverage. Your answer then is Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com. From high school football to the pros, no one knows more and has better perspective on the teams you care about. Bulldogs, Falcons, Braves, and everything Southern Sports. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com has names you know and trust. Guys from here, born and raised. Names like J.C. Outlaw, Kevin Price, Jason Bishop, and many more you know and trust. Ask your mom now. They'll tell you. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com is your unmatched source for Southern sports, period. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
104.1 The Wave presents the Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, the authority on Southern sports.
This Southern Sports Edition Minute is brought to you by Island Automotive. The high school basketball season now takes center court with high school football over, and the Brunswick Pirates took home a 62-39 win over Glenn in the last game between the two ever played in the old BHS gym. This has been your Southern Sports Edition Minute, a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network, brought to you by Island Automotive. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at SSE Sports, and be sure to check out Uncleated with myself, Garrett Gibbs, and Tyler Mitchell at the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
Pick up your copy of SSE all over the Golden Isles. The Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, exclusively on 104.1 The Wave.
Uncleated back on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. So we're going to jump into the conference championship games. We're going to start with, I don't know if I want to pose this subject to Garrett, Tyler. As passionate as he's been about the Big Ten championship game, Ohio State, Michigan State.
I think it's fair to say that he doesn't like Ohio State a whole lot.
I've been told that I had to sit out this segment.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't know who told you that. It was a great idea. No, but it was a good game if you're a Michigan State fan. You know, I had a lot of fun watching it. I'm not a Michigan State fan. I know in the first quarter, you know, I'm sitting there watching the game. I'm like, all right, guys, here we go. Let's see what Ohio State's all about, you know. Urban Meyer's all ecstatic on the sideline. High five, low five, let's chest bump. We're about to play us a football game. Well, needless to say, they came out and they did not play a football game in the first quarter. Michigan State did basically what they wanted in the first quarter, taking it up and down the field. Only got a field goal out of the first drive, but, I mean, you really got the sense of the game in the first quarter that Ohio State felt a little defeated. That said, they did make a good comeback. You know, I believe it was 17-0 at one time. They made it a football game for a very short amount of time.
But Ashley came back and they scored 24 unanswered in the game.
So they made it look like, hey, we're here. Let's play some football.
And then Michigan State answered that with 17 unanswered of their own to close the game out.
Yes, they did. So for two times that game, they had a 17-0 run, I guess you could say. And, you know, Michigan State just outclassed them late in the game and I believe made us all feel a little vindicated in our beliefs last week.
I have cooled down a lot, so I can be a little more objective about this thing. But one of the stats that jumps out at me is Ohio State was 1 of 10 on third down.
Yeah, that
1
doesn't
of
surprise
10.
me. They were punting.
You
the
don't
ball
win
left
games
and
when
right.
you're 1 of 10. Because you're going to be in third downs almost every drive.
Right.
I mean, you got to convert some of these things.
Here's a point of reference. Ohio State was ranked the second best team in the country. Michigan State came in ranked 10th in the country. Let's be honest. Michigan State was a little bit overranked. I don't think there's any of us that really feel they were the 10th best team in the country.
I'd say probably 15.
Maybe top 15.
I'd give them top 15.
Okay, so we'll say realistically a top 15 team beat the number 2 ranked team in the country. So what's that tell you about whether they should be there?
If you say that same thing, though, I wouldn't say Ohio State's a number 2 team. I would say they were a top 5 team. So maybe not even
easy top. I'd say doing great to keep them in the top 10.
So top 10.
Really fired up again. I'm gonna get fired up. I'm warming up over here.
Top 15 be the top 10 team.
Well, let's get out of the Big Ten because I see smoke falling out of the guy's ears. Let's go to the Pac-12. So we've got Stanford, we've got Arizona State, a big rematch of the game they played earlier, which Stanford woodshed at Arizona State the first time. This time. Different day, same story.
Yeah, it's really the same thing. Stanford, they're just a good team. They control the ball as they usually do. I think it was a little more even on possession this game, but Stanford they did what they do and they won the football game. And
Tell you,
go ahead.
A team,
give it to us, Garrett.
A team like Arizona State, who's averaging 500 plus yards of offense, Stanford gave up 311.
Right. Yeah, they just did what
Stanford is the best team in the Pac-12. There's no doubt.
That game was over midway, not even midway through the second quarter. I think it was like 28-7 at that point, and with like 9 minutes and change to go. Stanford had already put it away.
Yep.
That is.
It looked like the Oregon game over again. High-powered offense. Stanford just iron curtain defense.
Yeah, shut them down.
So I think that this game to me pretty much solidifies by far and away Stanford was and is the best team in the Pac-12.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And I called it last week. I called it.
I called it last week.
Stanford wins, beats Arizona State.
If you'd have asked me 2 days ago, I'd have said the same thing.
I thought Stanford would win that game too. Arizona State had a really good year. They're on the upswing.
Yeah. They should be proud of themselves.
The thing is, teams have got to start realizing, especially out west, defense is what's going to win you championships. And in that Pac-12, they don't like to play defense. They love the pageantry and the show and all that stuff. But then when you have to play a team from the Southeastern Conference, you better be able to play defense.
You better be able to play defense and run the ball. I mean, because Stanford had such a balanced. Like I said, I mean, numbers wise, and the style of football that they play is so parallel to what Saban and them have done at Alabama, where they'll have 220 yards passing, 230 yards rushing. It's just very balanced, and they control the clock. I mean, I think they had 33 and a half minutes as opposed to 26 minutes of Arizona State having the ball.
Right.
So they controlled the tempo of the game and just punished them.
So Stanford will head to the Rose Bowl to play Michigan State. So
yes.
I guess really Oregon kind of got their wish since they didn't want to go to the Rose Bowl.
Hey, we're too good for the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, they still may, depending on how, because we don't officially have, because our show's coming out a little bit before the BCS show, so we don't really have all the bowls yet. But we do know Michigan State will be playing Stanford. Oregon may make their way to a BCS game, but that's not what they wanted. They wanted a national championship, but I digress. We move on. Let's go to Auburn, Missouri, SEC championship.
Yes, sir. That was a high scoring, high powered offensive game. I kind of think we all expected that to happen. It's just who was going to score more points.
I didn't expect that to happen. UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network, Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. Tyler, I honestly thought that game was going to be a little bit lower score. I had more respect for the Missouri defense. I thought the Missouri defense was better than what they showed in that SEC championship game, and I thought the score would be much lower than 59.
Well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about 103 points scored in the game. That don't happen in the SEC game.
No,
I
definitely didn't expect the 59 to be put up, but I thought it'd be a 30-plus game and it'd just be back and forth, and Auburn do some fluky, crazy stuff at the end to win, which they didn't have to do this game.
I tell you, anytime you rush for 550 yards on the ground,
wow.
That's pretty awesome.
I think Missouri is going to be the only team ever in SEC championship game history, past, present, or future, future that's going to be able to say, we scored 42 in the SEC title game and lost.
Lost by, 17?
Yeah.
I mean, one individual on Auburn, when you run for 300 and I believe 4 yards.
It was.
What kind of record is he breaking or setting? I think he was in the top, there's only been a few guys to run over 300 yards in one game like that.
We were talking about Jameis Winston and all that, earlier in the show, but, if Trey Mason is not sitting in New York, it's hard. It'd be hard to kind of deny the guy. With Mariota pretty much dropping out the race,
right.
Manziel. I mean, you kind of had to put Manziel in there because of just the numbers he's put up all year.
Right.
But I mean, Jameis Winston and who? Okay, I mean, if Trey Mason's not there, it just ain't fair.
He deserves an invite. A quote that we were talking about off the air is after the Auburn Missouri game, Gary Pinkel, the Missouri head coach, is sitting at the press conference, and one of the reporters says, "What about the Auburn offense is so unstoppable?" Right. And he says, "You're asking the wrong guy, because if I knew, I would have stopped him."
Which is a great retort. I love that answer. But honestly, as a reporter, what do you want the guy to say?
I know, yeah.
I mean, because if he had an answer, guess what, guy? You wouldn't be talking to him in this manner right now. He'd be excited, and you'd be saying, "So how'd you beat the Auburn Tigers?" So dumb question, great answer.
Agreed. In the ACC, Florida State, huge favorites. They ended up being 30-point favorites over the Duke Blue Devils, and they covered.
Yeah, I think we all kind of gave them 30 points on that. But if you watched the game and you watched the first half, or probably just the first 13 minutes of the first quarter, Duke looked like they came out there and they had a chance to put numbers on the board. Their defense was stopping FSU, albeit for a short amount of time. But it looked like, hey, this team came out here to play a little football. They're going to make it over. And FSU. They did what FSU always does. They got to him with the big hits and took him out of the game.
Yeah, funny thing is, I was on my way home from Jacksonville last night, and I sent Garrett a text because I saw the Duke Florida State score, and I sent him a text, and I said, "Look at Duke hanging with Florida State."
That's right.
By the time I got home and I walked in the door, game was over.
Yeah,
it was done.
But it was a fun first quarter to watch with an obviously outmatched team.
I have to hand it to David Cutcliffe and the Duke Blue Devils, because I think at the beginning of this season, no matter who coached, I don't think if Nick Saban coached them, nobody would have thought they'd won 10 games and been in the ACC championship. I think everybody was kind of looking at the beginning of the year, it being a Florida State, Virginia Tech, or Miami matchup in the title game, and Duke beat both of those teams,
right?
And pretty handily. Right. And I think, wow! And to do what they've done, they came out and they played with them, for a little while, and then the Knoll train just started running.
Yeah, I mean, you had Duke playing against NFL talent, and these kids, Duke's not NFL. I'll be honest, they're just not NFL talent, but they have a big heart, and hats off to these guys.
And I'm going back to that defense of Florida State. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, it is Duke, but that saying, well, it's Duke. Doesn't quite hold the same water like it used to.
Not this year.
Because these guys are a good football team. And when you hold a team to 3.3 yards per pass, 3.2 yards per rush, you're pretty much dominating, controlling the line of scrimmage like you're supposed to.
The game that we didn't get to because we are up against heartbreak. We're out of time in this segment. What turned into a Big 12 championship game between Baylor and Texas. Baylor takes down Texas. They'll be on their way to the BCS. We'll touch on them maybe another day. When we get back, we're going to weigh in on the Jameis Winston case, uncleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network.
D1 football coverage. I mean real football coverage. Your answer then is Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com. From high school football to the pros, no one knows more and has better perspective on the teams you care about. Bulldogs, Falcons, Braves, and everything Southern Sports. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com has names you know and trust. Guys from here, born and raised. Names like J.C. Outlaw, Kevin Price, Jason Bishop, and many more you know and trust. Ask your mom now. They'll tell you. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com is your unmatched source for Southern sports, period. The Southern Sports Edition at the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
104.1 The Wave presents The Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, the authority on Southern sports.
This Southern Sports Edition Minute is brought to you by Island Automotive. The high school basketball season now takes center court with high school football over, and the Brunswick Pirates took home a 62-39 win over Glenn in the last game between the two ever played in the old BHS gym. This has been your Southern Sports Edition Minute, a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network, brought to you by Island Automotive. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at SSE Sports, and be sure to check out UnCleated with myself, Garrett Gibbs, and Tyler Mitchell at theSouthernSportsEdition.com.
Pick up your copy of SSE all over the Golden Isles. The Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, exclusively on 104.1 The Wave.
UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Back, Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. So the whole Jameis Winston sexual assault thing finally, I guess, really came to a head, and we got it, at least I'm going to use the word situated. All charges dropped against the Florida State Heisman Trophy soon-to-be winner.
Well, yeah, soon-to-be winner. I think everybody's kind of leaning that way, but didn't over yet. But to see the charges dropped, I mean, lucky guy. Lucky team. I don't know all the particulars of the case. No one knows. Only the man upstairs and Winston and all the parties involved. They're the only ones that know. And I just have to say that it's still, no matter what the outcome of the case, it still kind of hangs a dark cloud over him plus, the program. So it's going to be, kind of interesting to see, how it plays forward. With having Winston playing, I mean, I think it's all but the writing's on the wall that FSU's going to, win the national championship, I believe, unless they just don't show up.
I'll say this. I'm pretty excited to hear this. He's cleared the charges. Finally, I get to stop talking about rape on a sports show. I don't really want to talk about it. I don't like talking about it. It's a horrible subject anyways. I'm glad that he's not convicted, charged, or any of this stuff. I'm great to hear, it's great to hear that, but it's also great to get back to sports and talking about real sports and actually playing the sports.
There was an answer that he gave after the football game. The sideline reporter yanked him after they beat Duke and asked him, now that you have been cleared of these charges, are there any changes in to your life that you need to make? And you know what? He owned it. He stepped up and he said, yeah, there are. I've got to grow up. And I've got to make better decisions, and I've got to be more mature. And I thought, that's what you need to say on national television. Well played.
Now he's talking the talk. Now let's see over the next couple years if he walks the walk. I would love to see some bad incidents like this really make him turn out to be a great guy and actually, hey man, be a community server. You know what I'm saying? Do a lot of things that show I'm in it to win it. I'm here. I'm a good person. And get out of the bars, get out of the clubs, get away from these women that want to chase these football players. Man up, own up, which apparently he's starting that process. Move forward, take this Heisman to the bank, and play football.
Yeah, I think the kid, I think he's going to be turning 20, I think, later this month.
Wow, what a young.
And I just think that the kid is, to hear him talk, he's really matured sounding for his age. I remember when I was 20. Oof. And it wasn't nothing like that cat. But,
no, it wasn't.
But
I'm telling you, it wasn't.
Hey,
simmer down.
But I think the guy's mature. I think he's got the. I said it earlier. Sky's the limit with the guy, and I wish him the best. And if he chooses not to participate, put himself in situations like Tyler said, staying out of the club, staying away from these, scantily clad women, whatever you want to call it. Because they're out there, gentlemen. If y'all are listening to the show, they are out there, and you kind of have to, make better decisions.
UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. So we teased a little earlier. We got into Garrett's Southern Soapbox. We also do another segment with Tyler Mitchell, with Tyler's holding it down. So once again, Tyler, I'm going to hand the keys over. Drive.
Tyler, holding it down.
Carlos Beltran is holding it down. 36 years old. He's still getting $15 million a year for the next 3 years with the Yankees. He's been holding it down his whole career. He's going to continue to do that. I just got respect for the guy because he produces when it's time to produce. Even though, from ages 33 to 36, he's only putting up, right under 100 home runs and batting a few points under 300. People know, they have respect for him. This guy produces when it's time. He's a clutch player. If you make it to the playoffs, which looks like the Yankees are trying to do, saving a lot of money on Cano and putting some money into 3 other guys, Beltran's going to hold it down. You get to the playoffs and we'll really see what I mean when this guy pushes you and pushes you and pushes you and makes you a better team. So good luck, Beltran. Keep it up. $15 million a year. Nothing but respect for that number. Good job, buddy.
Tyler holding it down here on UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. That's pretty close to wrapping things up as far as what we're going to talk about, unless Garrett's going to go on another Ohio State rant. God forbid.
No. I thought he said Braxton Miller in there, but he was talking about Beltran. So, I
said I need a Miller. Light, actually, because I'm thirsty.
3 segments later, by the way, I forgot to say.
Yeah. If you didn't hear it before, guys, Garrett does not like Ohio State at all.
They're not on his Christmas card list.
Hey, it's not that I just have a deep hatred for the university or the team or whatever. I just I get tired of just, and I think many people will agree with me. I get tired of hearing the Notre Dames and Ohio States that that don't play anybody all year long. Oh, we beat Michigan. Well, Michigan's 4-8, so good job. And I think they don't play anybody, and yet they want to come around and talk that they deserve to be in a national championship. And I think if I played a schedule like TCU many years ago, and Jason, I think y'all can agree with me that TCU was undefeated. They were sitting there at 11-0, thinking that they should be in there deserving to play for the national championship. And I'm like, no, y'all wouldn't even stand a chance.
Not even close.
And they don't play the schedules that these big powerhouse teams do, and they don't deserve it.
I'm ready for the playoff system. I want to see
1 through 4.
I want to see some, because then we wouldn't have this debate. We would never have this.
We'll
debate.
Be debating 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, we would.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think the rankings are gonna. That's what's going to be so debatable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
1 through 4 right now.
But that gives us a good shot. You don't have to talk about the 4 or the 3 should be number 2. I mean that's the big thing. That's the killer. It's like who should play for the big game? Who's going to play for the big game?
What you would have right now if we had that 14 playoff, you'd have number 1 Florida State playing number 4 Baylor, and number 2 Auburn playing number 3 Alabama in a rematch. Would be your first.
Are you telling me how awesome that would be? That'd be great. I don't. Y'all can call me crazy. I think that would be phenomenal.
That would be some pretty good games, I have to say.
I'd want to see Florida State Baylor. I think Alabama would win that rematch with Auburn. You put them on a neutral field.
Well, and then the 2 teams that probably should have, that were billed to play for it from the jump.
Do you see what I'm
Florida
saying?
State, Alabama, the 2 best teams in the country.
I think it would wash out a little better. I mean, now if Auburn beat Bama again, guess what? You guys deserve it. Holy crap! Good job. You surprised everyone.
Yeah,
but
you're right. Yeah, absolutely. You beat them twice, and especially on a neutral field.
In the same year.
You might even should be the number 1 team going into the national championship game if you beat them twice.
I said this to you last night, Garrett, when we were chatting. I'm convinced that Alabama could beat Auburn 8 out of 10 times in Jordan Hare.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too. They just team of destiny.
Well, next year,
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, next year we won't have these issues of a 1 loss versus an undefeated with a weak schedule. We'll have the playoff system. We'll let them debate it, and I hope that it expands out where we get to 16
teams. Man, how
that'd
great
be even
would
better.
that be?
It's going to do it for us. This has been UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. For Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, I'm Jason Bishop, signing out.